What is going on, everybody? Today we are going to be talking about my experience with the LA Marathon and basically my race recap. I wasn't exactly sure if I was going to make this video because I was pretty disappointed with myself in this race, even though I didn't really have a time goal. But we're gonna make the video anyway, and I think it's gonna help me get over it. Slash, I think it's also important to kind of celebrate small victories and also, just accept like what life comes at you with. Nothing is gonna be perfect. You're not always going to win. You're not always going to PR. You're not always going to PB. And also, at the end of the day, for me at least, it's not that serious. Running is one of the few sports that I enjoy. And I know that there will be future races as, I've just started running not too long ago, about 1.5 to 2 years ago. So I know that I have many more marathons to kind of make it up on. So without too much yapping, which I already have done, let's get right into the race recap. So to kind of start it off, like the day prior, we carb loaded. My sister and I, she actually ran the marathon with me, the LA Marathon. And we went to our pre-game tradition, or our tradition that we did one time before, which was Olive Garden. And we also went with one of her friends named Wes. We ate a lot. I don't know what else to say about that. We ate unlimited breadsticks, unlimited soup and salad, as well as, an appetizer and an entree. It was honestly maybe too much. And, like, as you know, the day before, it's pretty chill. Like, you don't really do too much. I did like a shakeout run with Nike, did the Olive Garden, as well as went to the expo to pick up my bib. But other than that, didn't do anything too crazy. I was personally trying to sleep a little bit before the race. So I was trying to get to bed by around 6:30, 7 p.m., which is absurd to say. And that's what I did. Ended up waking up at around 2:30 since we live in South Bay, which is kind of like south of where the LA Marathon is. We had to wake up super early, even though the race didn't start until 7 a.m. Now, a lot of past LA marathoners advised us to take a really early bus from the finish line to the start line, just because you know how bad LA traffic can get. So my sister and I, we plan to hop on the 4:30 a.m. bus, even though there is a 7 a.m. start time. So hence why we woke up at 2:30 a.m. Breakfast was pretty diabolical, I'm not gonna lie. We had honey peanut butter with Hawaiian rolls, or on Hawaiian rolls. And then I also added some butter on top of that. And yeah, it was just very decadent. Honestly, I don't exactly know if I should switch that up for pre-marathon, just because I typically don't do that before my regular long runs. I also don't really carb load like I did at Olive Garden the night before that much, because I was just feeling super bloated. And I guess like that's just what happens when you eat a lot of carbs, or I don't know. I drank a lot of water, a lot of carbs and stuff. So I don't exactly know. I think I might switch it up, or who knows? I might keep it the same. We'll see. But yeah, ate a pretty big breakfast. I think I also stuffed some Pop Tarts in my pockets before we left. We drove to the finish line, a little bit of a hassle to get into the parking structure. We had a little bit of trouble with that. So we were actually running a little bit late, but then we hopped onto the bus, and then by the time we got to the start line, we had around an hour before the start of the LA Marathon. Now, mistake number one was actually not what I mentioned just now, but mistake number one was the open corral. So if you're not familiar with marathons typically have corrals to kind of seed you based on your estimated finish time. So typically there's like elite, which is like professional runners, or really elite amateur runners. And then there's like corral A, corral B, corral C, corral D, just depending on what size of race it is. Now, LA Marathon is just like the biggest race that I've ever ran. I've ran the OC Marathon, I've ran the SF Marathon. And to me, maybe the SF Marathon I thought was a pretty big race, but LA is even bigger. So, I guess going into it, I didn't really think too much of it. And I think when I was signing up for the LA Marathon, they did ask for an estimated completion time, and I think I put like 4 hours or something. I put like a normal time for me personally. Another thing that LA Marathon kind of suggests you put is your prior race results to kind of verify that time, so that you can't just put any time down and then expect to get into a specific corral. But LA Marathon has elite, A, B, C, D, E, and then open corral. So since I actually didn't enter my previous races to kind of verify my estimated completion time, I got open corral. And honestly, I didn't really put too much thought into it at the time, which was kind of dumb of me, my fault. And I did the same thing for the SF marathon, which is why I kind of like got stuck in the back a little bit and I was kind of trying to weave in and out. Same thing happened for LA Marathon, except even with a bigger crowd. So I'm not even going to blame it on that. That was definitely 100% on me again. I was just underestimating how big the LA Marathon was, and also I guess how big of a difference it made for the race. But yeah, I wasn't too worried about it. Also, another caveat is that training for this marathon, I had some personal stuff going on, and I actually ended up only having 1 month to train, or I guess like not only 1 month to train, but I only really trained for 1 month, is what I'm saying. So again, another thing that's on me. So going into the LA Marathon, I also didn't have too specific of a time goal. I knew I wasn't really going to PB. LA, I know, is known for being very hot, like a very hot course, because it starts a little bit later in the day and it's Los Angeles. So it started at 7 a.m., whereas a lot of other marathons start at 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. So as you know, the day goes on and the sun comes out, it starts to get a little bit hot. I tend to cramp a lot due to the heat and losing sweat and electrolytes and stuff. So I kind of already knew that LA Marathon wasn't going to be my race or like my fastest race. So I just did my best in that month to prepare for the LA Marathon. I did 2 long runs a week, which I think is a little bit dumb. Don't follow me. But I just thought like in my head, like, okay, like for me, like mentally, if I can do long runs, then like hopefully when the marathon comes, like I won't be shocked at like how long the marathon is. Because I think in previous marathons, like my first two, there was like a period of time where I didn't really complete any long runs right before the marathon, and I think mentally I was just like, oh my gosh, like I have to run 26.2 now. So in this build, even though it was a very short build, I tried to build the confidence of doing a lot of long runs like right before, and I think that kind of backfired, not only for my confidence because I couldn't complete a 20 miler. I was like cramped out at 17 for one of them. But it also kind of made my legs a little bit tired and have less pop in them when I actually had to run the LA Marathon. So again, I know this is a whole lot, but start of the race, 7 a.m. The open corral, which was the very last corral, like I said, probably like 5 or 6 corrals, and probably like 15 to 20 minutes after the first people started, I started. So we were off to a hot start, and then I knew that the LA Marathon course was also going to be really tough because it has a lot of hills as well. Not as many hills, I guess, if you count the net elevation compared to the SF Marathon that I ran, but pretty similar to the SF. I would say like I want to say it's 1,000 feet of elevation, like net, versus I think San Francisco's is 1,400. I'll kind of verify it on the screen here, but LA I knew was going to be a little bit different because it was hot and hilly. So yeah, started off the race. I kind of didn't really have time expectations, but in my head I kind of wanted like a 4:15, 4:20. My previous record, or I guess like previous best was, or personal best, I don't know what I'm saying, personal best was the OC marathon, which was actually my first marathon, was a 4:08. In SF I ran a 4:28, and then LA I ran a 4:31, which I'm kind of getting to. So I'm just getting slower, guys. But basically, yeah, I kind of came out the gate like I was running with a friend, probably like 10:30s or 10, like around 10 to 10:30s, and then in my head I was like, okay, like take it chill for the first half and then slowly do negative splits for the second half of the race, as well as conserve energy. For me also, like I wanted to see if I could run the whole marathon, maybe not the fastest that I could, but just to see if I could run a whole marathon without cramping in tough conditions with minimal training. So that was kind of like my way of PBing, was like to run a whole race without cramping and feeling good. And knowing that I had more in the tank is what I'm trying to say, versus like in all 3 of my previous marathons, or all 2 like of the previous marathons, I've felt like I pushed like my limit. Actually, SF didn't really push my limit too hard, but I did cramp a little bit towards the end. So I wanted to see if I could run this race without cramping. And I also brought all the nutrition that I should bring on a marathon, because in my previous 2 marathons, I didn't fuel properly. And I was thinking maybe that's the reason why I was cramping so much. So this marathon, I brought 6 goo gels, or 6 Huma gels slash honey stingers. And then I also brought I think like 15 to 20 salt tabs because I lose a lot of salt and electrolytes and stuff. So I just pop them whenever. And I would say like for the first half marathon, I did run it pretty slow. I think it was around like 2:10 or 2:15. Slow for me, guys. Um, no offense to anyone that's like running any pace. Like I think obviously finishing a marathon is a huge accomplishment and stuff. When I say slow and I'm being self-deprecating, it's all towards me. No offense. I guess to anyone out there. Like I'm not saying that anyone's slow or not. But yeah, like I ran the first half pretty slow for me, and I was like, okay, like the body's feeling okay. Like I said, since I did so many long runs right before the marathon, especially 2 times a week, and I wasn't really giving my body too much time to rest. I didn't really have a taper week either. My legs just felt super dead, and I was wearing the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3s, which I made a little short on, so you can view that if you're interested. But yeah, like the shoes were fantastic. I have no problem with the shoes. I think like in a whole different scenario, and hopefully my next marathon, if I do end up running in those shoes, I'm pretty sure I can PB. Like those shoes are very, very good. So all the gear, all everything I would say was all really good. It was just on me that I didn't end up finishing like how I wanted to. But yeah, the first half was a little bit slow. I started to think like, okay, at mile 15, mile 16, I was like, okay, now's the time that if I want to get that 4:15 or 4:20, I have to start picking up the pace because, you know, these 10 to 10:30s aren't going to cut it. So I was thinking maybe I'll do a little bit of sub 9, a little sub 9 action. Still didn't feel like super good about it because like I said, my legs didn't feel like they had pop in them, and also it was starting to get hotter, and I always felt like in the LA Marathon too, like every corner I turned I felt like was an uphill, and like there was maybe one or two hills that I remember specifically that did go downhill, but every other hill was uphill. And I feel like it was just mentally draining while I was running, thinking, oh, I'm going to be faster. I'm going to be faster the next mile. And then I just see like another hill and I'm like, holy shit, okay, I'm going to take this hill slow. And then hopefully there's a downhill that I can go faster on. And it never really came. My quads started to really feel sore at around mile 22, 23, and I think that that's when I kind of knew that the wheels were going to fall off soon. And I was holding, you know, maybe like a 10 flat pace at this point. I knew maybe 4:20 was not really in the cards, or 4:15 was not really in the cards, so I was just like, you know what, F it, let's just try to finish this race strong and let's try to finish it without cramping. So like I said, my quads were really burning. It felt like fresh off the bone, or like it felt like a barbecue rib where like the meat was gonna fall off. That's how my quads felt. So it wasn't cramping, so for me that was a win. It just felt like the legs felt really heavy, my body felt really heavy. I felt super bloated still from, I think, the Olive Garden the night before, but I just kept pushing. I took all my gels, basically all my salt tabs. So I was like thinking in my head like, you're good, let's just, you know, finish strong and hopefully I don't cramp it or anything. And then mile 24 and 25 hit. 24 was definitely tough. I think I ran it a little bit slower. I think I maybe walked like maybe 30 seconds just to like take the soreness out of my quads. And also like mile 25, like the last mile, was just up the hill for LA. And also like it was starting to get hot because like I said, I was running pretty slow. So by this time it was probably around 11:30, because also keep in mind I started 20 minutes after 7 a.m. the start time. So it was probably like 7:20 or 7:30 when I started. So it's already like almost noon and it's freaking hot and my quads felt like they were falling off the bone. And then mile 25 is kind of when the pain train hit. And to that point, I was thinking like, oh, like, you know, even though this is going to be a slower marathon, I think I could do sub 4:30, as well as I think I can finish without cramping. Because typically when I cramped in the past, you know, my first marathon and my second marathon, I felt like it was at mile 22, 23. My first marathon, I was cramping so bad that I really had to walk for like 5 minutes straight. And then my second marathon, I only had quad cramps. So like I felt like that was, you know, get a little improvement, and I was able to still jog or run throughout the whole thing. But this one was crazy. I feel like mile 25, like to put this in perspective too, guys, like I could not run past the finish line. Like I was like walking slash like hobbling because I was cramping everywhere. Like mile 25 to 26.2, basically to the finish. I was like running slash walking. And I really wanted to jog through the finish line at least, just because I felt like, you know, for the pictures, for the videos, maybe I was also thinking about getting a short clip of like, oh, last 200 meters of the LA Marathon. But I was like, hell no, that's just not happening because I was in so much pain. And when I crossed the finish line, I was cramping in my hamstrings, quads, my like shoulders like felt like they were cramping in like this, and I felt like I just like couldn't like relax them, or I couldn't like bring them back, and it was just like this, right? And when I walked past, like I was like hobbling because everything was hurting and cramping so badly. They were like, "Sir, you can't stand here. You have to move. You have to move." And I like in my head, I was like, "Obviously, I'm trying to move, but I literally can't." So I literally could not move. And they were like telling me, "Do you need a med tent? Med tent?" Like basically, I was overstimulated. Everyone was talking to me. Like there were 3 or 4 volunteers. Shout out to them. No offense to you guys either, but in the moment, I was just like, please, everyone, just leave me alone. Like I'm like hobbling towards the side. I'm trying to get out of the way for the finish line, but I literally felt cramps in my core, my shoulders. Every time I try to stretch my hamstrings, like touch my toes type, like my abs would like cramp up, and then I'd have to stand up so that they would stop cramping, and then my hamstrings would cramp again. And then like I was like drinking some water that one of the volunteers gave me at the finish line, and then someone was telling me like, oh, you need electrolytes. Like go walk to the end of the med tents or whatever to get like a coconut water or to get like an electrolyte drink. And then I was like, I literally can't move. Like I was just like, and then they just kept like saying like, oh, you need this. Do you want a banana? Do you want med tent and stuff? And I was just like overwhelmed, and I was like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. And I was trying not to be like mean to anyone, but in that moment, I was just like, guys, please leave me alone. And I was like fighting demons, not gonna lie. And then, yeah, after like, that dramatic finish, I would say like 5 to 10 minutes, like I was still hurting, but like I was able to walk and like move. Like obviously I moved to the side so other people could finish and stuff. But yeah, like it was one of the most painful things I've experienced, and I think the LA Marathon really humbled me. I don't think I'm gonna run that course again. Maybe if I'm like way more fit and way more prepared, hopefully in the right corral, with ample training, maybe I'll do it again. But shout out to my sister. She actually ran a sub 4 marathon, so it's her PB for sure. It's her second marathon. She ran the first one, the OC marathon, with me, so she ran a 4:02 or a 4:01 for her first one and 3:53 for this one, and she was cramping too, and she never cramps. So shout out to her if she's watching. You're a beast. But unfortunately, your little brother is not a beast. And yeah, like I'm a little bit disappointed with my performance. But with that being said, I do have an announcement that I am running the Long Beach Marathon in October. So it's redemption time. I'm also going to be training my ass off for that one. I am dealing with some like nagging injuries, not from the LA Marathon, but just like in general in life and stuff. I have like a twisted ankle. I have like tendonitis in my Achilles. I also have like a sprained tendon in my finger from rock climbing. So your boy is just a mess. I'm also congested, so my voice is a little bit different. So please excuse that. But if you made it this far in the video, thank you guys so much for watching. I wasn't going to make this video originally, but I feel like I needed to make this just for documentation purposes. I know that like these losses hurt, but then they'll make the wins in the future feel even sweeter. I'm so excited. I think Long Beach is going to be a great course for me to try and achieve my PR. I still want to break sub 4 hours. I think my lofty goal is like 3:45. And I know that sounds crazy after running really slow, like slower and slower marathons after each marathon, but I went 4:08, 4:28, 4:31, and now I'm gonna be shooting for like 3:45 or like sub 4 at least. But I really do think it's possible, and I think that if I get my body right, get it healthy, train really hard, eat the right things, and just have a good attitude about it, I think it's definitely in the cards. And yeah, stay tuned. It's going to be in October of this year. So I do have about like 6 months or 5 months. I am also running like a little 5K in LA too. So like I'm excited to try a different distance out. So we'll see about that. Maybe hopefully sub 24, sub 23, I think would be really good for me. So yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap up the video. It's just kind of a video of me talking. It's more so, I guess, for my future self to, not be so hard on myself. I know running a marathon is just an accomplishment of its own, but it's kind of hard when, like you've ran it before and you've ran it faster and stuff. But, like I said, there's a ton of excuses and a ton of reasons why this marathon was slower for me, and I know I'm gonna bounce back. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you stayed through the whole video, I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.